Hello.
Hello. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Welcome to the 7th day of the festival and 6th day of News Rehab episode.
I don't remember, but I think you're right.
So, as you know by now, every night we have a different guest come in to share with us a little bit of their news habit. And tonight we have a special guest coming all the way from Brazil, Neli Pereira, which I hope you met a couple minutes ago in the auditorium when she
And then
was
in the cafe?
in the cafe, of course,
Yeah.
but she was also in the
Yes.
cafe, helping us fix our spirits a little bit and forage our roots. Thank you so much for being here, Neli.
Thank you and welcome.
Yeah. And
My pleasure. It's a lot easier to fix drinks than to be informed and to curate news. I can tell you that.
yeah. And before we start, I would love you to tell everyone a little bit about you. That is, besides a mixologist, an anthropologist, and journalist, anchor from BBC London, Brazil. I mean, all of your amazing experiences that you've had throughout the years.
Yeah, I was a journalist, in the newsroom for 20 years. And for the past 6, I've been sort of doing news and mixology because I've always studied about Brazil. I was a cultural journalist. I did a master's degree in cultural studies. So within journalism, my interest was always culture. And then I decided that it would be a lot more interesting. And I think more, when you are in the newsroom, you think that you are changing the world, but you're not really getting your hands dirty. And I thought that through mixology and researching
Depends
about
where you go.
Yeah, it depends on where you go. But in Brazil, it's weird because that's one of the things when I was invited to speak on the News Rehab, I kept thinking that Brazil has a very, very specific sort of media structure because the main media outputs in Brazil, and we're talking about 2 major national newspapers, 2 major national television channels, and 2 major news radios. They are owned by very traditional and conservative families. And nowadays they are also owned, they have the license to operate a lot of religious media outputs as well. So to be a journalist in Brazil and to work within the traditional media, it's something very hard to do because you're always knocking on the roof of whatever interests the family which owns the place has. And it's not very uncommon that those interests are not your own because you're not a wealthy, rich person.
But
Oh my God,
it's not the
especially in
same.
Brazil.
It's not the same everywhere.
I don't know, because, even if you speak about...
At the
for
bigger
example,
scale,
why-
yeah, but
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe in the US you have the same scenario. In London you had BBC, which is sort of an independent media, although patrocinated now, financed by the government, and by the people. But you do have, I don't know how much liberty and freedom journalists have all over the world when they are using traditional media. And that's why I think part of how I keep myself informed nowadays is through independent media.
okay, so let's go how you get informed yourself. How you start your day actually, because as we said every evening, this is like a session, like a moment at 11 p.m. Romanian time and whatever time is wherever you are from, where we trying to understand how to read information today because it's too much fake news. It's too much news that seems real but is not, and so on. So let's go to how you inform yourself, how you start your day. Do you read the news in the morning? What are your habits?
I don't read news in the morning anymore because I try to have my mornings not a lot of outside interference. So I keep a lot of to my own. I read books. I live in a forest. I'm not there now, but I do live in an urban jungle here in São Paulo. It's the biggest urban jungle in the forest in the world where I live. So I do not read in the morning, but I do read close to noontime, whatever are the main headlines in the traditional papers. But I do, I sign newsletters, and I do keep informed a lot through newsletters. And those are mainly from independent journals and magazines here in Brazil, where they curate information in a different way. So they do have a most leftist, certainly more open-minded, through diversity. They have diversity in the newsroom. They have diversity in their news that they promote. And that's what I read. So I read independent journals and newspapers through newsletters. That's mainly if you are in Brazil, Nexo Jornal. I do read Gama Revista. I read Elástica Revista.
Did you wrote about us or not?
No, they haven't. Maybe
haven't.
Nexo. Nexo is on our
next time.
Yeah.
But I read a lot about Intercept, which is an independent journalism, investigative journalism here in Brazil.
As independent can be. There I have some.
Because Elástica is not from Abril, for example.
They are, but they are two guys doing a magazine and sort of independent in a way that they are not hugely financed.
No, I know the story. I know the story because I did the story for them. But the problem there, it's a little bit different because the founder left after a scandal. But anyway, we will not go into detail. But
I mean, those are just examples,
right?
I mean, that's the sort of media I look for: Vice News, Media In. And then there's one thing that's very interesting here in Brazil, and I do keep informed a lot through them, which is the indigenous media outputs. You have Media India, you have APIB, and you have different indigenous leaderships doing news and using the social media as a means of incentivate people to know more about their cause. And that is, for me, a breakthrough in media in Brazil, because you get informed by listening to people that you normally don't listen, because indigenous people are not in the media at all. So that's one thing that it's very amazing. I mean, it's amazing how they are breaking through barriers, and we can connect with them directly nowadays. So I think social media, I do get informed a lot through Twitter and through the Instagram as well. I use them as a way of getting informed as well, through a curation of people and small magazines and specific journalists and that kind of thing. Because I think that's very, I gain a lot from it, because I hear voices that I normally don't hear everywhere else. And also podcasts. I've listened to a whole bunch of podcasts, journalistic ones, journalism with memes and with a little bit of humor, because Brazil, they say that Brazil laughs from its own disgrace. And I do believe that that's true. You can argue if that's good or bad, but that's true. We do a lot of memes. Every news transforms into memes like this. And there is one podcast in specific that I actually incentivate and I give money to, which is Medo e Delírio.
That was the next question. What and if you pay for news? I do. Okay.
But which one? Say the name again of the one that you just said.
Medo e Delírio em Brasília.
Okay.
It's for me. I listen to it every day, and I do pay them. Because I think, and that's the question, and I think it's a very important question when you speak about news today, is pay for your content. I mean, there are amazing people doing amazing content, and we think that it's all for free because we got used to it, and I do pay for my content. So I incentivize journalists that I think they are doing a great job. I incentivize shows that I listen to. I incentivize media that I like to access during the day. So I ended up all my signatures and from big newspapers, and now I choose where my money goes, because I think that that's a way of changing things.
Yeah. But don't you last question.
Okay,
Then you
go ahead. Go ahead.
You don't miss the newsroom. You don't miss going to places and to report stories and to try to.
I do.
You do. Huh?
I do very much so.
But
it's what I know how to do.
But what happened? What was the click that you changed your life? Because you totally changed your life. Something really disappoint you, or something happened in your life?
Yeah, both things, I think. I was working in a very, very big media output here in Brazil as an anchor. I was anchoring a radio show, a live radio show, 3-hour live radio show every day from 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. I had a big national audience, and it was 2013 where all the riots began in Brazil, and then it followed and it led to the impeachment of Dilma Rousseff, and then all the political struggle here in Brazil that now led to Bolsonaro being elected in 2018.
Unfortunately.
Unfortunately. So what happened was during that period, I've opened Zebra, which is my bar, and it's also an art gallery here in downtown São Paulo. And I began to fall in love with mixology. And I found in mixology a way of talking about Brazil, which was very innovative, where I didn't have to be so serious, and I sort of like, you like cocktailing, so let me enjoy and let me just seize the moment and talk to you about Brazil a little bit. So for me, it was like, wow, I can do that in a different way. And I'm probably going to reach people in a different way. I can actually influence people to do cocktailing different in Brazil. And that's what I did. I actually changed the way of doing cocktailing here in Brazil because of that. But I couldn't do more of the bar and the newsroom because I was doing, I was working in weekends. I worked 31 days in a row without a stop, including New Year's Eve and Christmas in 2016. And I almost had a burnout in January after that. And then I decided, well, either I'm going to change that or I'm going to get sick. So that was one thing, because journalists are just inside the newsroom more and more. We are just calling people. We're just doing interview through the internet. We're not looking at people's faces anymore because the media output doesn't have money, because we cannot go, because we have 13 different things we need to do. And it was not fun anymore. Not even fun. It was not what I believe journalism was anymore. And then there was the political opinion of the media output I was working for, which was very much into farming, which was very much into agricultural, monoculture, very much into progress with whatever, very progressist, how we say here in Brazil. I mean, progress in the spite of the environment, progress in the spite of the social inequality. And that didn't do for me anymore. So I was fighting a lot with the direction, and it got to a point where for them, it was good that I left, and for me as well. Yeah. So it was because of journalism opinion and political structure within a media output. And I wasn't, I didn't agree with it. I don't think that's how journalism should work. I mean, you're lying to people when you do that. You're not informing them.
Yeah.
And I wasn't up for it.
Yeah. And now you're launching a YouTube channel, right?
I am tomorrow.
Wow.
Yeah.
And
it's called Abrasileirar, which is to be Brazilian or to get Brazilian.
You really love Brazilian.
I do. I really
you know
do,
that we are coming live in Brazil.
You are?
You didn't know?
No.
Now I tell you. Probably next year we will have a live event there.
Be careful of what you promise on camera, Cristiano.
I am. I said probably.
If I'm not, I'm going to be very upset with you guys if I'm not there.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's going to be amazing. I mean, I do love the country. In spite of everything, I think if we give up on it, that's an easy way for people who want to dominate us and who want to change whatever we are. And I'm not giving up. Definitely not. I didn't when I was a journalist. I left a career because of that, and I would do whatever it takes. I mean, I think that that's what we need right now. People who believe that it can be different, because otherwise it's like being informed. I mean, I don't wake up every day and say, well, let's see what happened in Brazil yesterday, because of course it's something bad. Yeah. Of course it's a bad surprise. Of course some rights were taken from minorities. Of course Amazon is burning in other biomes as well. Of course there was, backlashes in environmental laws. I mean, of course it's happening every single day, whether you are informed about it or not. So you don't wake up like, wow, I want to know what's going on in the country. No, but you have to, because otherwise you don't have the tools you need to fight. And I think that information nowadays, if you curate it and if you are well informed, it gets you tools to change the way things are. Because everything that traditional media output wants is for people to continue being what they are. You know, it's to maintain things as they are, because it's very comfortable for them. I don't want it to be comfortable for them anymore. And I think that's how we should operate on how being informed, using it as a tool to make things different. And I do believe, I know it sounds very optimistic, but it's a way I found to be informed and to think that I might change things, or it might help to change things.
We're so grateful for your work, really. And I have one question, like, out of all the podcasts and independent news that you follow, if you had to choose like one, what is the one that you like the most? And it's also like the easiest and most accessible in terms of language, you know, that anyone, like my grandma, can listen to or read my 10-year-old cousin, you know what I mean? Like, which one is the one that it makes easier to read news in Brazil, because it's been quite hard?
I think it's the podcast that I mentioned before, Medo de Ler em Brasília, is made by a journalist in Rio. And the podcast is edited by another journalist, which is an amazing guy, because he is also a musician and he's also a meme freak. He's he knows everything that goes on in the internet. So he mixes, like, he puts voices on people's mouths, and he puts memes or songs into news. So you listen to it. Well, when they start the podcast, they say, are you ready to go on another bad trip that this government puts us on? So, I mean, it's like, well, we are all, I mean, sorry for the language, but we are all in big shit here, but let's swim in it. That's sort of what they do. And it's fun, it's humorous, but it's always very, very informative. They gather sources from different people. They interview different people. There are always different journalists there. And it's a half-an-hour podcast about the day. They count the episodes on the days that Bolsonaro is in power. So today is day 1002, and let's go. And they talk about every single thing that the president and the government does. But it's, I mean, you listen, you laugh, but it's disgraceful. But at least you're getting informed in a more soft way.
Yeah, not depressive.
And you can argue, well, exactly. It's not like, oh, you know. It's serious, but it has this taste of humor underneath it, which I really like.
We have some questions actually from the audience.
Yes.
From Maria Ana. What advice does Neli have to help us to select trustworthy sources?
Wow, that's hard to say. But I think, first of all, is get to know the people who are behind it. Like you say, I mean, there is a magazine. Well, it's owned by a major editor company here in Brazil. Okay, be aware of it. Know who incentivates, know who puts money in, know how it's financed, and know who are the people behind it. Know their names, see their positions in the social media. I mean, we have this nowadays. We can
but what you do actually when you're trying to be a journalist, or you're trying to be an independent, but you don't have enough money because everything today is.
That's why she's saying that we have to pay.
Yeah.
We have to pay for our content. I mean, there's a big discussion nowadays because, I mean, YouTube, you can get money out of YouTube.
Everywhere, but it's very small.
Spotify, Deezer, they don't pay the podcasters for hours that people keep listening to the podcast and that kind of thing. I mean, we have to change the way the platforms also are operating with the content that they receive. Because, I mean, if you can, and if there are means, do pay for the content that you get. I mean, if you know who are doing, if you know that there's people, not big companies, not big whatever entrepreneurs and businessmen behind it. If you know the people who are doing, if you know that your money will make them keep on doing what they're doing. If you have 10 reais, $2, put that into it. It makes a difference. I mean, pay. I mean, that's one thing. But the first thing is know the people who are behind it, because that will help you to know which path you're going. If they are more leftists, if they're more conservatives, whatever causes they support, I think that's a very good thermometer to know, well, I'm going to get informed through this guy. I think personalized journalism, personalized information, see which stories you like, see which journalists are dealing with the causes and the subjects that interest you, and follow them wherever they go. Because even if they are, it happens. I mean, it does happen. You have great journalists in traditional media outputs. You do have them. You have Patrícia Campos Melo here in Brazil, which is one of the Brazilian greatest journalists working for a traditional newspaper. You have Aline Midley, which is a journalist from a major media television here in Brazil, and she's good. I mean, personalize the content, because you know that even though that person is within a very great big media corporation, she is supporting the right causes. She is in connection with your beliefs, what you want the world to be. And she will probably do her best to do that, even though she is in this big structure. I've tried. I mean, I was there for 10, 15, 20 years.
Will you ever go back?
No, I will not. Because I treasure a lot my time nowadays. I treasure a lot the independence of my speech. And I treasure a lot the audience I built over the past years in my social media. I do have an Instagram where I do constant lives, where I do a lot of daily content. And on YouTube, I will have a news digest once a week as well. Wow. Because I think it's a way, I'm going to do once a week, sort of a news resume, let's say, news digest of what happened within that week. Because I think that's a way that I connect with my audience in a different way, but I will not do 9 to 5 anywhere else again. I will not sell my time again to any media. But what I would do is I would love to have actually a show about Brazil, about Brazilian culture in any media output. The biggest one, the bigger the audience, the better, actually. But I would not do news again. No.
Another question here, before you probably have another question, is that how early you think we should educate ourselves and our children regarding and about news?
I'll tell you what, I have nephews. I have 3, 4, 5 nephews. And I've tried when they were like reading age. I mean, first you choose the right books. Then, even if it's children books, choose the right ones. Choose the ones who have diversity in it. Choose the ones who are reality focused, not princesses. And, and then when they are on reading age, starting to they get information really soon. With my nephews, when I saw it, I was like very close to them until they were 12. Now they're 17. They don't want to hear to what I have to say anymore. They have their own courses they want to make. They have their own idols and people they listen to. So, I mean, be close to what your teenagers are reading, what the young people are reading. That's where change actually comes from. And I think that while it's very good that they are independent and everything, but I think that we have to keep a close eye to what they're reading, especially to what they're consuming in the internet, because those people who want to spread fake news and spread whatever different and stupid ideologies, they will find them if you don't. So I think you have
but through social media now with TikTok and all these things, they consume non-stop. It's so hard to stop them.
There are researchers that show that we are getting dumber. It's the first generation. It's a Harvard study, I think.
And even with the pandemic, even worse.
Yeah. It's the first generation that the kids are not smarter than the parents. It's the first generation in 4 generations. I mean, we are getting dumber, and it's time spent on screen that does that. Definitely, I mean, literature changes everything. I think cinema does. And when I spoke about before about monoculture and how monoculture is a problem, not only for soil, but for people as well. It's like this. And we talk about TikTok and teenagers, but look at us in series on the Netflix. We marathon them. I mean, really, we marathon them. And the same series here in Brazil, there in Bucharest, over there in whatever, Tokyo, we are all listening to the same things. We are all reading the same things. We are all seeing the same series, for Christ's sake, we have to be different.
Yeah.
Do we have more questions?
For the moment, no. Yeah. If we have more questions, we can, I will tell you.
Okay.
Wow, there's a whole bunch of people here now looking at the screen. There's 461 people participating.
Yeah.
That's great audience.
No, and that makes me think that, like when I was a kid, for example, I remember my parents watching the news like every day. We had this like ritual of, okay, even if I didn't like to watch the news as a kid, I saw my parents doing it. And nowadays, which we barely have newspapers at home, so you lose this ritual. You don't even know if your parents are consuming news because maybe it's on the podcast, it's on their phone. So I keep thinking how can we create news rituals that you can bring the family together again,
I think one thing is, especially when going back to the teenagers, is find subjects and topics that are interesting to them. Because we're not going to talk about politics only. I mean, journalism is not, news is not only what's going on in politics, in economics. I mean, it's genetic, it's medicine, it's science, it's technology. I mean, being informed, sometimes, I like culture. So I do keep informed with whatever cultural outputs are there. Whatever, musicians, cinema and documentaries I want to watch too. So gather a bunch of information you can share around the house, especially with kids and with teenagers. I mean, find media sources that might be interested to them, YouTubers, TikTokers, whatever, that have, relevant content. But the thing is, we are very much, that's one thing about news, we are very much passive. We are not hands-on, let's find this. It's a homework, it's a job we need to do. It's not easy to curate information. It's not easy to find, but either you do that or you keep on watching the same things or you keep on reading the same things. I mean, it is a work that we need to do. I mean, find the journalists, search for new podcasts. Sometimes you lose time doing it and it's frustrating. But whenever you find something you like, well, you have going to listen to that podcast forever. Yeah. So, I mean, do the homework, be less passive. We complain a lot. We say, it's hard work, the media, it's all dominated by big companies.
Yeah.
Well, you know, find your way through. I mean, but we are very passive and we complain quite a lot, and we need to be more active in choosing our news and curating it.
I'm sorry to cut it out, but the 30 minutes just got
it's gone.
Yeah, gone. Oh. Yeah. Thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you. I hope it was hopeful and helpful for everyone. And do pay for your content. People need it. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Neli.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye. This is it.
Acabou.
Done?